Hey peeps, welcome to another video. Today it is another Get the Look for Less, and this time I'm concentrating on one of my favourite brands, Zimmermann. Zimmermann is an Australian brand that I came across probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, watching Lydia Elise Millen in the Fro, Fashion Mumbler, etc, etc. I love their aesthetic. I love the clothes that they put out. I haven't ever bought anything because I can't afford anything from them, and in all honesty I'm not sure that it would fit, but that's one of the beauties of sewing, is that I can make something that is inspired by a brand that I like or an aesthetic that I like and actually make it fit me. I have been trawling the site for quite a while now. I've come up with a few of my favourites and some sewing patterns that you can use and that I can use to recreate the look. Let's get started. I am recording my screen. I have my computer down here in front of me, so I will be looking down every now and again. But yeah, as I say, I've been going through the website and I have come up with a few favourites that I thought I would show you. So the first one is the blouson sweater, which is £445. It's a fairly simple knitwear piece from Zimmermann, which is kind of unlike them. Most of theirs have lots of ruffles and details and things like that, and I will be showing you some knitting patterns at the end of this kind of like section. But this was the first piece that I saw that reminded me of a pattern that I already have in my stash. Now this one is a slim fit sweater, blouson sleeves with fitted cuffs, ribbed collar, cuffs and hem, and it's made of merino wool. This is a knitted piece. I think you can see that in some of the close-ups. Yeah, you can see that here. This actually is a knitted piece, but I have come up with a sewing pattern that you could use a knit fabric to recreate something similar. I have picked out the Sheridan sweater by Hey June, and I think view A and view B could be used to recreate the blouson sweater or blouson sweater by Zimmermann. There are loads of patterns on the market that look like the Sheridan sweater. This is one that I actually happen to own, so it was the one that I initially thought of. The Zimmermann sweater does have like raglan sleeves. As I say, it obviously has been knitted. It isn't a sewn together piece. I'm not sure how they mass produce knit items. I know there's not some little granny sitting there knitting away with their knitting needles. This is not exactly the same as the Sheridan sweater. The Sheridan sweater has set-in sleeves, but the overall look is very, very similar. There are some amazing fabrics that you can get out on the market today that look like they have been knitted, so you could definitely recreate something very similar using the Sheridan sweater or a very similar pattern. As I say, there are many out there. The Sheridan just happens to be the one that I own, and it'll save you £445. Next up is the Botanica smocked yoke mini dress. This is £865. It is silk crinkle georgette relaxed mini dress, blouson sleeves with shirred fluted cuffs, frills and picot edging throughout, elasticated cuffs and collar, invisible zip at centre back, comes with separate slip, removable two-tone leather waist tie, Ellis Rowan print artwork from the Flower Hunter by Patricia Fullerton. And actually Mood Fabrics recently stocked a whole bunch of Zimmermann specific fabrics. They've only got 2 left in stock at the moment. I did look through when they announced it and was very tempted by quite a lot of them. As I say, there's only 2 left in stock, and I will put the link down below. Hopefully they'll do that in the future, pick up some of their dead stock fabric and sell it on to us so we can create something incredibly similar to Zimmermann pieces. One of the standout features of Zimmermann pieces tends to be the ornateness of them. There's lots of ruffles, there's lots of detailing. I love that. They do some very sleek pieces as well, but the ones that I'm usually drawn to are the over the top, lots of edging lace and insertion lace and ruffles and those kind of things here. So as you can see, the cuff and the neck on this one have been smocked, which is absolutely gorgeous. There's lots of ruffles around the V-shaped yoke, very blouson sleeves, which is a big favourite of mine, and then a tiered skirt. Now the pattern that I've picked is actually a top. It is McCalls 7977. The reason I'd picked this one is because it has the kind of V yoke with the ruffle on it, the blouson sleeves, and the elasticated waist. I'm not sure if the Zimmermann one does have an elasticated waist because you never see it without the belt on it, and sometimes they do just leave them without any shaping at the waist, and then you add the shaping with belts. Personally, I would put the elastic in. I would wear a belt over the top of it, and I'd probably have a belt made from the fabric I used, and then wear different styles of belts as well, just to give it a different look. I also would make it midi length. rather than mini, just because that's a personal preference of mine. So with this pattern, what I thought was it would be very easy to elongate the peplum area of this top just to make it that little bit longer, and then add tiers. So just add seam lines at strategic points. You could either go for 2 tiers for a very similar look to this dress, the mini dress, or you could add more tiers to make it either midi length or full length, depending on your preference. So this is a different pattern. It doesn't have the high neckline. I'm not a fan of super high necklines in spring and summer, and that would definitely be when I'd want to wear this dress. There's a keyhole at the back here, which again will mean that you won't need to put a zipper in, which is always a nice thing, especially if you decide to work with silk chiffon. Again, this is not a perfect match. The cuffs have a button closure rather than shearing. If you wanted to put shearing at the cuff, you could elongate the length of the sleeve at the bottom, put the shearing in, and you could just ignore the cuff piece and the buttons. So there's options there. Personally, I would probably go for a button-up cuff, just because I really like that look. Although if you did put shearing in there, you would be able to wear the sleeve further up your arm if that was a look that you liked. The main reason I went for this pattern is because of the yoke detailing that they've done for you already, which is very reminiscent of the original dress. This V yoke here with all the ruffles. You will need to do some tweaking to this pattern, which again is the McCalls 7977, and I own it, and definitely something that I want to try. I think I might make mine in a rayon. I love the idea of silk chiffon, and something sheer like that would be very cool, but silk chiffon is expensive. I don't think I have any in my stash, to be honest, either. I maybe have 1 or 2, but I think one of them's a border print, so I'm not sure how well it would work with this silhouette. But I think I'd probably use a rayon, just so that I would want to wear the dress more often, because if it was silk I would be a little bit more reluctant to wear it day to day. This wouldn't be the type of dress that I would want to wear to an evening event, not that those exist at the moment, but it would be the sort of thing that I would want to wear during the day as a spring summery dress. McCalls 7977 to create the Botanica smocked yoke midi dress or maxi dress, depending on your preference. Next up we have the Lovestruck tieback mini. This is £595. Again, they do this in a midi and a maxi version. This is made from linen. It's a mini dress with waist cutouts, self-tie halter neck and back, frills throughout, invisible zip at centre back skirt, and it's lined. So I really like this dress from the front. I think it's really pretty. I like all the ruffles. From the back, it's the dress that I wouldn't be able to wear, because I wouldn't be able to wear a bra with it. I found a pattern that is similar and will give you a Zimmermann inspired look. It's not exactly the same. And the pattern that I have gone for is McCalls 8175. One of their new patterns from their spring line. It has the cutouts at the waist, but the back is covered up. It does still have the cutout at the lower back above the waist, which I really like, but it does allow you to wear a bra. Now, I've made a dress like this before. I think it was a 7971. This pattern and that pattern call for a hook and eye at the top and the bottom here to keep the back closed, and I found that that just doesn't work for me, and it also flashes my bra, especially if I wear my pink one under a black dress, which I had done. So what I want to do is create rouleau loops and put those down the back with buttons. That way it will close the entirety of the back but still give you that look. Another thing you could do, if you like them, is put an exposed zipper, separating zipper at the back there, which would give you closure, cover your bra, and be a statement, because exposed zippers, I'm sometimes a fan of them, sometimes not, depending on the fabric combination that they go with. I think they look slightly better in heavier weight winter autumn fabrics, and this dress is definitely not one of those with that much skin on show. Okay, so obviously the sewing pattern has grown on sleeves and a back to it. You can add frills to the end of the grown on sleeves. They have the pattern for that. You could really easily draft frills to go around the cutouts as well if you wanted to. I'm not sure that I'd want extra fluff there, but maybe it might be something that I would give a try. This one is a halter neck dress basically, so again, this is not an exact pattern to recreate the look exactly, but it will give you the it's a Zimmermann inspired look because it has the cutouts. You can put the frills on. I think it's a kind of pattern that I wouldn't wear the Zimmermann dress because I wouldn't be able to wear a bra, but I definitely would wear this McCalls dress because I think I could tweak it into such a way that I would really like it. So that is my pick, the 8175, the Vanessa McCalls dress for the Lovestruck tieback mini dress from Zimmermann. Next up we have the poppy belted mini dress. Now this is linen utility style mini dress fitted with flip hem, patch pockets at chest, side hip pockets, comes with matching bamboo buckle belt. So I really like this. As you guys know, I really like shirt dresses. I am quite surprised how much I like this one because I prefer the fullness of my dresses to come from the waist rather than from the bottom of the hips because my hips are already big enough. But I would really like to try this on and see what it looks like. I love all the utility details that they've got in here. So there's the tabs for the belt carrier, the pockets, and the detail on the belt as well. I would probably have a belt made by Harlequin in a matching fabric. I don't know if Harlequin allow you to send in your own buckle, and if I could find something that looks like this, it would be something that I need to ask them. I have a couple of belts that I want them to make this year that are kind of like more speciality and a bit different to the standard fabric covered buckle and belt. The collar looks like it doesn't have a collar stand. It looks like it's one of those, I don't know what the term is, but there's no collar stand in there, and the pattern that I've picked does have a collar stand. But I thought it was, again, it was a good sort of jumping off inspiration point for this particular dress. So the pattern I've picked is actually out of print, so I can show you here. It's the McCalls 7623, and here it's a line art. I thought view C here would be a really good starting point for making something to look like a poppy dress. So obviously the yoke is V'd at the front, V'd down rather than straight across, and I think that possibly could be more flattering. The skirt on this McCalls pattern also has a handkerchief hem rather than a rounded hem. It'd be really easy to give it like a rounded hem to look like the poppy dress. That would be very easy to do. Also with the McCalls dress, the button placket goes the whole way up and down the front, which is a preference of mine. There aren't any pockets on this dress, but you could totally borrow those from something else and add them. And you can also add the belt carriers in the Zimmermann style. I think this McCalls pattern is a really good jumping off point to make something that ends up looking like the poppy dress. And again, I have this McCalls pattern. I'd like to give it a go and see how it looks on me. Again, I'm not sure if it would be flattering over my hips or emphasize them to a point that I'm not happy with that, but I would like to give it a go, and I'm willing to give it a go. I really like this pattern. I think it's interesting. I like that it has a long sleeve option as well. You could definitely make the high-low or the hanky hem, you could make that longer if you wanted to, and I think that that could be something that would transition really well for spring and also autumn. You could definitely do one of those little tabs on the sleeve that if you wanted to roll your sleeve up would then hold the sleeve up when you roll it up. I think that would tie in really well with the other kind of like details on the poppy dress as well, so I think that could be a really interesting option. My pick for the poppy belted mini dress is the McCalls 7623. So next up I have the poppy floral scalloped shorts, which are £410. They are made from linen, high-waisted shorts, pin tucks from waistband, side seam pockets, invisible zip at centre back, lined, removable self-covered waist tie. So these shorts, I'm kind of cheating with the pattern that I've picked because it's the fabric on these that give it the scalloped edge. It's a broderie and glaze embroidered fabric that already has that detailing to it, and there are those types of fabrics around, and you could totally use the pattern that I'm going to show you to make those. It was more the kind of like inspiration. Again, this pattern reminded me of these shorts and could definitely be tweaked, and depending on the fabric you use would give you a really good dupe of these Zimmermann shorts. The pattern I have picked is the châtain shorts from Deer and Doe, and they have the scalloped edge, but that's the scalloped edge on these shorts is actually something that you sew. It's not the fabric that does that. The line drawings on these aren't overly helpful, but they are high-waisted shorts. So you can see here it has that yoke front, slight pleating there. This particular pair that I'm showing you here do have the scalloped edge. I think you can have some that are slightly lower waisted, which is not a preference of mine. I would definitely want to go for the high-waisted ones. If you want to go for the higher waisted ones, you could mix and match. You could use the turn-ups from view A and put that on view B, but just with the higher waist yoke. I really like the yoke. I like the little pockets that it has, and I also like the back pockets. Again, depending on the fabric you use, if you're using a really busy print like this one, you may want to leave off some of those details like the back pocket flaps, because that would just get a little bit too busy. It's nice to have the options, and again, depending on the fabric that you pick, these shorts could end up looking very Zimmermann-esque. I think. And it would be really, really easy to put on belt carriers for a tie belt like made out of the fabric that you use, or again having a belt made by Harlequin, which is a belt makers in Essex. Lots of people always ask me why I have my belts made by Harlequin rather than making my own. Covered buckle kits in the UK are nearly non-existent. Having them shipped over from America ends up being more expensive than having the belt made by Harlequin, so that's why I use that company so often. The next thing that I have to show you is the Zimmermann Lady Beetle wool cape in mint. Now, when I first started prepping for this video, I was looking through the Zimmermann site. It was probably a couple of weeks ago, and I found this cape on there, knew exactly what pattern to pick for it, and since then I think it's sold out because it's disappeared. But I did manage to find it on a website called Mosaic, who I believe are in the US, because it is priced in dollars, which are $1,350 for this cape. It says cape style, self-tie belt, cream piping, runs true, big, imported merino wool, dry clean only. I absolutely love this. I think it's beautiful. I think it has a hood. Looking at the kind of fullness that's on the shoulder there of the close-up that I'm showing you, I really like the tie belt detail with the kind of pointed ends. I think that's gorgeous. I like the little stripe that they've got going on over the kind of side seam of the shoulder seam there. I think that's really, really nice. I would love to own something like this, and I have a pattern in my stash already that I can make something like this with. This would be great. If you've watched my recent pattern haul video, you know I waffled on about the fact that I have lots of elbow length gloves, so I think this would be a great thing to make and wear in my wardrobe, because I could then wear my elbow length gloves with them as well. So the pattern I've picked is McCalls 8029, which I believe came out last autumn. I'm thinking View C would be the one that I would choose. View C does have points at the front rather than the curved edges that the Zimmermann cloak has, but I think that would be a fairly easy fix, something to round out. You may want to round out the curves on the back piece as well here. Other than that, I think it's pretty much identical. You just need to add little points to the tie rather than the blunt edge that they have here. And by the looks of things, there aren't any holes for the belt to tie through at the back. I personally would rather have the belt go the whole way over the back rather than under the back, just because it would give me more definition. But again, I think that's a really easy thing to do, because you could just overlay the front pieces, mark in the little holes that you need to make for the belt, and put those onto the back. The Zimmermann cloak does have the white piping detail at those holes as well, so I think they're kind of like made like welts, but again, that's something you can definitely do. I think this is absolutely gorgeous. It's definitely something that I want to add to my wardrobe, and I think that the McCalls 8029 pattern is a really great option for that. So next up is the Botanica Roost maxi dress. So this is not something that I would typically gravitate towards, but I think styled with a belt, it would be something that I would then really enjoy wearing. I really like the blues on sleeves. I really like the kind of fullness that it has from the neck. I like the tiered skirt on this. So this particular dress is £1,050. It's made from silk crinkle georgette, blues on sleeves with elasticated cuffs, relaxed maxi dress with elastic at hips, self ties at hips, gathered throughout, buttons and loop at centre back neck, comes with separate slip. The one thing that I would change about this is I would move this seam line here and the elastic up to my actual waist, and the pattern that I've picked, I would probably end up moving that tier down a little bit, because the pattern I have picked for this dress is the Wilder gown from Friday Pattern Company. So this is more Empire line, and that is the thing that I would change. I would move it down so it was actually sitting on my waist. This one does have the necktie at the front, but again, that would be really easy to change from the front to a back tie, and you could always use a button and a rouleau loop if you would prefer. The sleeves aren't blues on this one, but again, that's not something that's too difficult to do. You could either add a little bit of fullness and a little bit of length and gather them in at the wrist, or you could just add a little bit of length to the longer sleeve here and gather it in at the wrist to give you the look that you want. I've seen a couple of people, Rachel in particular, wearing the Wilder gown as a top, and I really liked how it looked. I loved that neckline on her, so I think this would be a really good dupe for the Zimmermann pattern. I think it's a really good dupe for quite a lot of Zimmermann's style, because as we've discussed, they kind of repeat the styles that work for them quite frequently, and I think the Wilder gown would be something that you could definitely tweak to make look Zimmermannesque, especially with the fabrics that you picked. There are plenty of opportunities use for colour blocking with the different tiers on this dress, and yeah, I just think it's a really interesting dress. Again, I would style this cinched in at my waist, and that's why I would drop the Empire line on the Wilder gown to my waistline, but other than that I would make it as is, wear it with a belt and some boots, and I think it would just look absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so next up we have the Lovestruck trim shirt. This is a pretty standard shirt. It's got a concealed button placket down the front. It's got a yoke, which they have used this amazing and very fancy flower detail to highlight, and then there are pin tucks in the yoke as well. They've also got the flower detail around the cuffs, and I believe the flower detail goes over to the back as well. Yeah, so they have got the yoke and the flower detail go all the way around to the back as well. This is £595. It's made from Rani, slim fit blouse, straight sleeves with button cuffs, 3D flower applique trim, concealed placket, pin tucks throughout yoke. It's the embellishment that make it Zimmermann, and it's a very standard shirt, but with all the extras on it is what gives it that kind of Zimmermann touch. So I have picked out this Vogue pattern, which is Vogue 1769, and this has a yoke detail. It has a bow neck detail as well. It doesn't have the conceal placket. That isn't something that I'm overly upset about, but it is something that would, if you have made a conceal placket before, you could always substitute in the pattern pieces for that if you really wanted it to have a concealed placket. Again, this is not a perfect replica. This doesn't have the pin tucks in the yoke, but it does have the kind of yoke detailing. The yoke at the back is straight across rather than curved, but again, that's something that you could easily tweak if you wanted to. Depending on the fabric that you picked, you could add the appliques around the yoke and around the cuffs to give you the Zimmermann look. I think this is a really pretty shirt. I like it in the green actually. I do like the option to have the tie, which is detachable. It has a little Nero collar. You can have ruffles. The view A has ruffles everywhere, around the cuffs, around the yoke and around the top of the collar, and then view B is much plainer. There are plenty of options to prettify this shirt, and I think it is a good kind of starting point to give you something like this Zimmermann Lovestruck shirt with the floral appliques on it. So depending on what trim you find, you could have a lot of fun with this shirt. It would be a really nice shirt pattern to have in your stash anyway, and as I say, depending on the trims and fabrics that you could use, you can make it very sort of like plain and basic, or you can really Zimmermannesque it up, as it were. Clearly I have been looking at the Lovestruck collection, because this is the Lovestruck v-neck midi dress. Again, they do this one in maxi and they do this one in mini. The midi version is £895. It's made from linen, self tie, halter v-neck, open back, gathering and tucks throughout, invisible zip at centre back skirt, and it's lined. So again, this one has lots of cutout details. I like the back on this one. The pattern that I've picked is very similar. I really like the different colours that they've used. It's the same print but in different colourways, and I think that works really well together. It has lots of detailing around the bust and on the midriff panels. The pattern I've picked is not quite that detailed, but it's similar. So it's the Vogue 8814. Now, as you can see, it does have the crossover at the back, but it's not a halter neck. You can make it with a full back, which is why I've picked this one, because for me I would want to make it with the full back, but there is the cross back option if you wanted to. It also has the V detailing, although this goes over the hips as well and then has a full skirt from there. So again, it's not an exact copy of the Zimmermann dress, but it's close. It would give you a very similar look if you went for similar types of fabrics. I really like how these V's look, and I think it actually might be quite flattering, because again, I usually worry about things that are fitted over my hips and then flare out, but I think with the seaming on this, it could be very flattering. This green one looks absolutely gorgeous on her. Really like it. It doesn't have as many pin tucks and details at the midriff and bust as the Zimmermann dress has, which we saw here. Yeah, there's lots more detailing on this, and the cutouts come further forward, but again, it's a very similar dress. You would get the look. I really like the fact that you can have a covered up back, or you can have the cross back if you don't need to wear a bra, or if you have a strapless bra, or wear different underwear solutions. But yeah, I think this green one is absolutely gorgeous. Kind of fancy making the maxi dress version. I think it's really nice. I don't own this pattern, I am going to be adding it to my basket the next time I buy some patterns from Vogue because it is beautiful. Next up we have the Lulu wrap long dress, which is £685. It's made from linen, wrapped midi dress, deep V neckline, blues on sleeves with elasticated cuffs, contrast trims and wrap belt. So again, one of the things that Zimmermann are famous for is the types of fabrics that they pick and the way they use those fabrics. They use a lot of border prints and they use them to great effect. I really love the trim that they have used around the edge of this dress. I think it's really, really effective. Love the sleeves. I love a wrap dress. There are plenty of wrap dresses on the market. I've gone for McCalls 7801 because you could use View C's bodice and View B's skirt to get something very similar. It doesn't have the blues on sleeves, but they are very easy to steal from another pattern. This one is the Vogue 9345 if you want really big sleeves. There is the McCalls 7537, which I have nicked the sleeves from that pattern and stuck them on everything. So it's very easy to kind of like Franken pattern on blues on sleeves. I thought the 7801 had lots and lots of options. And again, lots of options that would make very Zimmermannesque dresses. The ruffles here, they are great. The little ruffles on the sleeves. And then also this one is gorgeous. I like the notched collar and the cuffs on the sleeves. I think this is a really interesting one. I would probably make this one with the skirt from B rather than the high-low hem, but again, the Zimmermann have a lot of wrap dresses with high-low hems. But this is a really versatile pattern and it can give you many, many Zimmermann-esque looks. This would be the one that I would pick, and I do own this one and I do want to make this one. Then the final piece that I have to show you is the luminous tiered midi dress, which is £1,050. Silk crinkles georgette, relaxed midi dress, blues on sleeves with elasticated cuffs, frills and picot edging throughout, comes with separate slip, removable two-tone leather waist tie, removable self-covered waist tie, Ellis Rowe print artwork from The Flower Hunter by Patricia Fullerton, National Library of Australia. So this is, I mean, this is the fabric on this is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's beautiful. I actually kind of struggled to find a button front shirt with a raglan sleeves in it. I have got a pattern to show you, which again is a top that we're going to have to elongate and add tiers to get this look. I really like the neckline there. I think it's got a tie through it so that it's gathered. The pattern that I have picked is from Grasser Patterns and it's pattern number 775. I just love this. So again, this is not a dress, this is a shirt pattern. But it has the raglan sleeves, it has the tie detail at the neck. It would be really easy to put some decorative buttons down the front if you wanted them to. It'd be slightly more difficult to add a button front placket, but it wouldn't be impossible. And again, for this one, we are going to have to add tiers to it to make it into a dress length pattern. But I thought the overall look, which this lady's wearing here in red, is beautiful. And it has the ruffles around the neckline, it has the giant sleeves, which I love. So again, it's not a perfect copy for this Zimmermann luminous tiered midi dress, but it's a damn good kind of approximation, and with some tweaking you could totally make something that looks like this. Again, if you didn't want to buy the Grasser pattern, you could use the Wilder gown. You'd need to work on the sleeves. The sleeves are raglan sleeves on this one, so you would just need to make them sort of more blues on, and again add elastication at the cuff to give you the look for the luminous tiered maxi dress, or midi dress, sorry. But again, if you didn't want to buy, or if you didn't want to buy both patterns, then either the Wilder gown or the Grasser shirt pattern 775 would make a really good starting point for something Zimmermann-esque. As I've mentioned, Zimmermann is one of those styles. They do have sleek styles, and I'll put a few of those up here, but the majority of what they do is highly embellished, highly ruffled, beautiful fabrics, in-your-face fabrics. It's just whimsical and fun, and I can imagine floating around in those kind of dresses and just very much enjoying myself. I mean, as you guys know, I love dressing up, I love wearing the clothes that I make, so I can see myself wearing these things. But I wanted to show you a few more patterns, and they are sewing patterns and knitting patterns that inspired me and made me think of Zimmermann style dresses, even though they're not a proper dupe for an exact style that I've seen on Zimmermann. So the first one is the McCalls 7724, especially this ruffly version. Lots of asymmetry in Zimmermann, lots of ruffles. I love the sleeves on this. If you made this up in an interesting fabric, especially like a stripe, and played around with the direction of the stripes, I think it could end up looking very Zimmermann-esque. Then we've got McCalls 7925. Again, I'm going to show you the line drawings on this one, but there's lots of gathering at the neckline, the blues on sleeves, got the tie detail and the tiered skirt. Again, depending on the fabric that you make this up in, it could be very, very Zimmermannesque, even with the shorter sort of flutter sleeves. This is a dress I have mentioned and I've made quite a few times and I love. It's the McCalls 7537, particularly view B with all the ruffles around the front. You've got the ruching at the midriff. I would make the skirt longer personally, tiered, but I have made this dress quite a few times. These are the sleeves I was talking about that you could smoosh onto other patterns, and that's what I have done many times. I mean, this particular one here could be something that Zimmermann have made, and I think this particular pattern is very Zimmermann-esque. I'm going to say that a lot. Next up we have McCalls 7500. Again, it's kind of like the ruffly details at the front, all the ruffles, the gathering. If you use some interesting trims and lace insertion and things, this would again end up looking very Zimmermann-esque. I have this pattern. I would make the skirt longer, I would make it tiered and make it longer, but I think this, again, depending on the fabrics you use, could really look inspired by Zimmermann. There you go, I said it a different way. Then we've got McCalls 7894. This again with the ruffles, the asymmetry. I just think you've got the blues on sleeves. I think again this one here definitely could have come from the Zimmermann website. All of the details on here remind me of Zimmermann designs, so the McCalls 7894, it would be a great option. Then the final sewing pattern I have to show you is McCalls 7898. Again, ruffles, cold shoulders, gathering details here. I think this is gorgeous, depending on the fabric that you picked. If you picked a floral fabric and again maybe some insertion lace or trim to go around the seams, this would look very Zimmermann-esque. Next up we have some knitting patterns. Now, as I mentioned at the very first item that I showed you, that was a very plain jumper for Zimmermann. Usually they're doing these kind of things, which I absolutely love, and haven't seen patterns exactly like that. But when I was looking through Ravelry, these patterns really inspired me. So we've got the ultimate roll neck jumper, which has this kind of basket weave detail on it, high neck, and it's cropped, styled with like a big floaty skirt, a belt and some boots and a nice bag. It would look very Zimmermann-esque. I'm gonna say that so many times. Next up we have the rear top. This is slightly more summer appropriate. It's shorter sleeves, but again it's cropped. It's got nice detailing on it, and again something that reminded me of, I wouldn't have been surprised to see this on the Zimmermann site. Next up we have the moire star. This is intricate, beautiful, cropped, got lots of detailing on it. Again, worn over one of the dresses perhaps, or worn with a nice big floaty skirt. Chunky belt, chunky boots would look really pretty. I wouldn't have been surprised to see this on the Zimmermann site. I think this pattern, the ruffle schmuffle, is the most Zimmermann-esque of all the knitting patterns that I'm showing you. I have bought this one and I'm hoping to talk Mum into making it for me. The ruffles, the little pom-pom details, or the popcorn details down the front, again, I wouldn't have been surprised to see this on their website. And finally, it's another over-the-top jumper. It's the cropped turtleneck. Again, cropped, lots of detailing. I can actually, in this colour with some of the stripe details that they've got going on at the moment on their website, I could totally see this on their website, and I just think it's gorgeous. And again, I'm hoping I can talk Mum into knitting this for me. A few of the Russian pattern companies that I've been listing over recently, like La Forme Rue, Grasser Patterns, have some very Zimmermann inspired patterns available on there. If we scroll down here, this particular one, dress 0428, very Zimmermann-esque. Giant sleeves on this wrap dress. We've got this one here, which actually more Isabel Marant, and you'll see that in an upcoming video. The styling of the patterns that they've made is, to me, depending on the fabric that you made them in, but it's very Zimmermann-esque. And if you have any problems looking at these Russian websites, then the very lovely Alex from Gingerhead & Co has done a video talking you through how to use the site, how to pick the patterns, and translating the website so that you can understand what's going on. So I think I have waxed lyrical about Zimmermann enough now. I, as I say, cannot sing their praises enough. It's a clothing company that I have loved for a very long time. I would love to own a piece. I would love to see a piece in real life and see how they've done the insertion detailing and all the little extra pieces, like this evening gown that they've done with all those flowers hanging off of it. Absolutely stunning. I don't know where I'd ever wear that, so it probably wouldn't be something that I would buy. But the dresses and patterns that I've picked for you today are definitely things that I would make and wear on a day-to-day basis, as long as I didn't make them in silk georgette. I would love to see a Zimmermann dress in real life and see the intricate details that have gone into making it, because I think that would be really interesting. That was a lot of waffle. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below which is your favourite dress or top that I've picked, and what you think of the patterns that I wanted to pair it with and the dupe that I think I could make with it. I would be interested to hear what you guys think. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!